question to Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Right. Mr. Matthews quoted that the price of gasoline pumping in California was $4.22 from the California Board of Equalization, which was lower than the Texas price of $14.33. You're saying that this number is misguided.
Right.
Do you have any other numbers from a better source?
Yeah, they're talking about the cost on specifically producing oil out of the ground. But the fact is, the oil companies are a large California conglomerate, and that is just one of the taxes. One of the taxes for oil, and oil companies pay a group of taxes in every state. In California, that group of taxes is equal to the highest of every other state. And with this oil severance tax, it would far exceed any other state. And that is a burden that drives jobs out of California.
Sorry, but in the article you're passing around, you said it's around average, not the highest.
Right.
In this article from...
it says with this oil severance tax, it would be the highest.
It would be the highest.
It would be the highest.
Right. But you have the exact numbers, because according to this source, it's including all property taxes and corporate income taxes that oil companies pay in California. So it does include those taxes. Do you have a specific number or any source where we can find that number supported?
You can find it from the ledge analyst, the former ledge analyst study, William Ham, and it's available online, and it's referenced it's linked in that source. So you're welcome to look at it.
I also had another question about the oil. Do you believe the oil is actually owned by the people, or is it owned by the oil companies?
Well, is your parents or your home owned by you, or is it owned by the general people?
Yes.
Yes, well.
I'm asking if it's owned by the people.
Well, that's right. I think we have property rights in California. When I buy land, when I pay property taxes in California, which is different from other places, I pay my property taxes based on the value of that land, including the value of any oil or other minerals that are underneath it. And I pay those property taxes for as long as I own this property, and whether they're extracted or not. And I think that is, yes, under our free enterprise system and our cash system, when you buy a piece of property, and if you are Jed Clampett and you find oil in the ground, then you are the owner of that oil that you sell. Then they talk about Chevron and Exxon. And Chevron and Exxon, and I never made this representation, are not going to be driven into bankruptcy or driven out of the state of California. We're talking about small and medium-sized oil drillers throughout the state who own 1, 2, 10 wells, maybe 50 wells, and they are the ones who are going to be forced to close their wells because they don't have the operation that can survive this 15%, 7%, not all the wells, but it'll be a portion of the wells. And that portion leads up to this 9,000 unemployment figure for a 12.5% severance tax. We're talking about 15% now.
Right. Do you know what percent of the wells are owned by smaller organizations?
I don't know what percentage of them are.
All right. Thank you very much.
May I have a comment on that question, or do you have another question before that? Okay. Proceed. Yes. When someone buys the plot of land, they don't own that land, the earth underneath it, all the way to the center of the earth. There's a limit in any country as to how far down the ownership goes into the ground. Just like there's a limit as to how much your airspace above your house you own. Do you think you own 10 miles up into space above your house? No. So I'm sorry, it's just a little disingenuous. Suggest that anything out of that land, all the way through to China, belongs to you. Because you own a piece of land and you're paying rent on it.
So are you saying we should not pay taxes on that?
I'm saying
property taxes should not include oil?
I think that severance tax is a separate tax. The severance is the permission to take it out from the common ground. The common ground owned by all of California.
So as part of that, we should stop charging people property tax on the oil under the ground. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that. I think
well, it sounds like we're saying that they don't own it, so they can't. They shouldn't. If they don't own it, then why should
well,
they?
We appreciate the heated discussion. The debate is over, but the question and answer period is still going on. So we have a question.
Thank you. Sure.
Hi, my name is Donna Haney. I'm a former realtor and real estate appraiser. And to my knowledge, you guys shouldn't be debating these things until you find out what you're talking about here.
Okay, let's hear from you.
Well, I'm not an expert on that specific thing. That's not really why I approached here to discuss it. But my understanding is that most title insurance or deeds specifically exclude mineral rights in California these days. I think way back in the day when they
Is
were
that because the original owner keeps the mineral rights?
they probably sign it over to...
So someone has ownership of
Someone
the
does,
rights.
but not you paying your personal property taxes, sir.
Well, someone is paying, I'm sorry. Someone is paying property taxes on that oil. It is just the law of the land. We've done it, we just had this long debate during our campaign in Los Angeles County last year. And it's just the fact that people are paying property taxes on the oil underneath their land. They own it. They pay property taxes on it. If it's not their oil, if it is the people's oil, then they should not have to pay property taxes on it. You should cut the property taxes.
I don't think that homeowners are paying property taxes on oil in the ground in California.
They are.
Check your deed and check with your title insurance company if you think you're owed royalties. You'd be collecting royalties. If you own the mineral rights, you'd be collecting royalties, wouldn't you? Let's sue Exxon for royalties.
You have to extract the oil to get any money out of the situation.
My honest belief is that, my recollection is that there are deed restrictions when you purchase real estate, residential real estate in a tract development in California. You are not entitled to.
So who owns the oil if there's oil underground? Whose oil is it?
Well, you have to check the chain of title, which is why I mentioned title insurance, and see when it got separated from...
So someone does own the oil?
I didn't come up here to speak as an expert on that, but
it's a people's oil already.
well,
I mean, as it says.
what I was challenging you on saying that the average homeowner is paying for the
You have to own
oil.
You have to have oil under the ground
To pay this. It's not 99% of the homeowners in California are not paying this. No. You have to have oil.
So here's what I came up to. We used to fund education, I believe, through our property taxes.
Right.
Until Prop 13 came along. And Prop 13 was sold to the homeowners or the voters in California as being for the little old granny so she wouldn't lose her home. And in fact, I've come to realize later that it's probably the large commercial landholders that were really behind that push and that have really stole education from our children. And so I think we need to really look at that. The reason I bring up property taxes after addressing that is because I see oil as a natural resource just like I see land as a natural resource. In fact, I would argue that none of us can really lay claim to the land that our house sits on by the same logic. It's all made by nature or God, whatever your beliefs are, it's here. No human being created it. You're complaining a lot about taxes on production, taxes on income. If we shifted more of our tax burden to natural resources, land, oil, etc., we wouldn't have to tax all those things that you're complaining about. So we'd go after the large landholders in California, as well as extraction of any natural resource, and fund all of our commons, not just education. I do have a question for you, though, Mr. Matthews. By the way, I spoke to you on the phone on Halloween night, I think it was. I got involved in Occupy Orange County. Yeah. And I've spread a lot of stuff. I don't know if anybody's here for Occupy, but I did try to get some people. In a post-peak oil world, how sustainable of a funding source is an oil extraction tax?
It's got to be good for at least 20 or 30 years. It's not going to be forever sustainable, and we're not counting on that. The reason I say it's good for at least that amount of time is because oil companies are finding increasing ways of exploring for oil and drilling it out and taking it out of rocks and shale and finding an invisible way of going right through into the ground and seeing where the oil is right through the earth. They have these new incredible techniques, which means that they're getting more and more oil. we're going to run out of this any way you look at it. But we've got quite a few decades left. And while they're taking the oil, I think our students should be able to share in some of that. I truly believe in the commons that certain resources, as John Locke said, that if you mix your labor with nature, the capitalist theory, private property theory, the nature that you take, like when you cut a tree down in the forest and build a chair, the chair belongs to you because you put your labor into it, according to this theory. Except when the resource is limited, it cannot be renewed. And oil cannot be renewed.
What about land? Do you agree with the concept that land should be in the same ballot? Should we be able
No, I don't. I think land is different because, for one thing, land doesn't help us create energy, and it's not bought and sold with a creative force. Energy, oil is used up. Land is not used up as such, literally, physically.
And
Oil doesn't disappear. I mean, land doesn't disappear after being used. And trees don't disappear because you can replant them and recycle them. Oil is very different, in my opinion.
I'm going to invite, or maybe challenge would be a better word,
Okay.
both of you to go onto a Facebook group. It's easy to remember. You just go up into the search bar on the Facebook page and type in LVT for land value tax. And if you would both join in the debate, there's a whole bunch of really smart guys from all over the world. I'm just kind of a girl gawker there. I'm not really involved, but I read their arguments all the time, and I'd love to see both of you contribute to that conversation.
Thank you.